Hello viewers, this is OBN Horn of Africa, where you are watching our weekly program Invest in Ethiopia, where we discuss investment opportunities and the challenges in Ethiopia. Today, I joined by Dr. Ismail Mohmud to discuss these issues and other related things. I'm Fakadu Branu with the program. Stay tuned till the end of our program. Doctor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me in your program, Mr. Fakada.
Okay, well, first, would you tell us about yourself a little bit to our audience?
Yeah, I studied political science in the area of policy and strategic, and also a minor in geopolitics.
Well, Ethiopia and Somaliland have inked an agreement where Ethiopia will secure a 20 square kilometer stretch of Somaliland's coastal waters for port development and a military base. How significant is this agreement for the two nations?
Yeah, as you know, this is a historical deal. As you know, Ethiopia will lease 12-mile strip of Somaliland coast for 50 years, while Somaliland will gain formal, diplomatic recognition from Ethiopia and stake an Ethiopian national air carrier. Somaliland, as you know, has a modern port at Berbera, recently upgraded through a major investment by the United Arab Emirates, DP World. But the location for Ethiopia, concession is really, primordial here. It's really important. In addition, to a port for Ethiopian import and export, Ethiopia will establish a base for a navy that has not floated a ship since 1991. As you know, Ethiopia is 120 million, population. It is a powerhouse in Horn of Africa. Also, Ethiopia need a port, not only, for the import, for the goods, to access to the global, maritime, but also Ethiopia has to have a security in that area, because Ethiopia can not only rely, as you know, right now, between 1.5 billion to 2 billion, Ethiopia is paying to Djibouti through Djibouti only. So you cannot only rely on one only port. You need, diversify, like they're trying to even Kenya in different, ports along, in that area. But the major one, the world is changing. And Ethiopia is, by the 2050, it will be a big, in terms of population, the demography is like between 2 and 3%. There is a million and million, So Ethiopia need badly to two things: to get, to global trade, as I said earlier, and also it needs for its own security in that area, because Egypt, Eritrea, in the failed state of Somalia, Djibouti, and different countries are, as you see what's happening right now in the Red Sea. It's a very, volatile place. In addition to that, why, the Western country or China or other country, there are 7 ports in Djibouti, the tiny place. What is all this fuss that Ethiopia, which is a powerhouse in that area, which is, a big country, why cannot get access to it?
Well, from economic point of view, how will this port access impact Ethiopia's economic future?
It will impact a lot. Let me give you a scenario here, some statistic, If you look, let's look at it, we'll look at it in details, what is coming from Egypt, another country right now. Let us take a dam, for example. The dam, right now, Ethiopia, 44% doesn't have electricity in Ethiopia right now. But if this, Blue Nile, dam it's almost completed 90%, Ethiopia invests almost $4 billion. If it will give 65 million Ethiopian for electricity. And that, in order to secure that, they have a problem with Egypt, as you know. Egypt is playing all kind of political geopolitics around there. Second, if you look the railway, for example, from Djibouti to Ethiopia, right now there is electric, that Ethiopia and Djibouti own there. It has 756 kilometers there. It used to be, 2 days. It used to take 2 days. By the way, I'm from that, generation. I was born in Dredawa. My father used to be working in the railway. And I'll tell you historically, 1917, the first person who started, the railway, I mean, you can look at it, the history. It was my grandpa, called Hirsi Gele at the time, 1917. Yeah. So what I'm trying to tell you, at that time, it was outdated. I mean, it was a lot of, but right now, instead of 2 days, it takes only 12 hours. But let's come back to this port right now. The Red Sea area, let's look at it. The Red Sea and the Gulf area, Gulf countries around there. Right now, the population around that area is 620 million. The Red Sea, when you include it, the Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, all those countries that are along the Red Sea, and then Gulf Adam. And the money right now, the budget, when you combine all those countries, is 1.5 trillion. But if we, in 2050, it will be, the population will increase 1.3 billion. And also the money, I mean, in terms of the budget of all those countries will be 6.1 trillion. The reason I'm telling you all this is when you look, the Arab country, in terms of infrastructure, they are well equipped. I mean, they are doing well. But when it comes to our area right now in the Horn of Africa, is a poor infrastructure. We needed to build that. We needed, like Ethiopia is the only country that can do all that. So Ethiopia has to access to the sea. And as I said earlier, two component element here in terms of economy. One is the economical, importance and the global trade. There are 12% of world trade going through that, Red Sea and Mandab there. And the security right now, everybody, because of the Houthi, as you know, there is a problem there. Ethiopia has to play a major role. The Navy of Ethiopia, after they train, they go there. Like right now, they are in Somalia. As Berhanu Julu, the field marshal, almost last week said, 60% of the troops, ETMISON, the peacekeeping force in Somalia, are from Ethiopia. Why not then get access also to the Red Sea, and Ethiopian Navy will involve there when the French, the Chinese, the US, and Italy, all other countries are there. So it will have a big economical, impact on the region, not only for Ethiopia, but Ethiopia has to be a leader in that area and must have, because Ethiopia, as you know, lost, the access to the sea in 1993 when Eritrea gained its independence.
Good. What about the benefit of Somaliland? What will Somaliland benefit from the deal in economic terms?
Okay, first, as you know, Berbera, right now, the DP World has modernized the place. In 2016, it invested almost $442 million, close to half $500 million. It's one of the updated, that they can use it right now. Even Ethiopia is using 2019. They signed like 90%, and there is a lot of thing going on right now. But Somaliland has to get two things. Unlike Somalia, Somaliland, it has a functional, government there. There is no, problem like even yesterday, there was a big Al-Shabaab was, they occupy one of the hotels called SYL. They kill a lot of people. the last 33 years that Somaliland reclaimed its independence, it never have any problem in that, along that line. Second, Somaliland, historically, if you look at it, these two countries, Somalia and Somaliland, they united, in July 1st, 1960. But Somaliland, got its independence June 26, 1960. After 5 days, they united with Somalia. At the time, it was not like a government Ethiopia that exists now. They're afraid from Ethiopia because Howd and Reserve, you see, there is a two-part in Somali region. There is what we call it Ogaden region, and there is what we call it, Howd region, Howd and Reserve. 1948, they annexed, this part of Ogaden. 1954, they annexed it. So there was two things. They're afraid, that Haile Selassie also, it will swallow them, it will annex them. So then as soon as they gain their independence, they, without any kind of, they didn't sign even act of union legally, and then they went to Somalia. But all that changed because at that time, people, they were saying Greater Somalia, the people in Djibouti, the people in NFD in Kenya, they were united. But that doesn't exist anymore. Why? Because in 1988, one of the dictators of Somalia, called Mohammed Ziad Barre, he bombarded the city of Hargeisa. He killed almost 50,000 and more than 500,000 Somalilanders fled, to Ethiopia. Ethiopia welcomed them, Ethiopia became their house, like, mostly they inhabit in the area of the Oromo region and also in the Somali region, what we call in Ethiopia right now. And Somaliland, from that time, 1991, they were in search of getting recognition, but they haven't get it. And, there is a double standard in this world, as you know. Yeah. South Sudan, get independence because of there was a lot of, religion movement here. They have every right, by the way. And there was a question of race. They weren't even in the colonial boundary. They were not, when you look legally, And second, Eritrea. So Eritrea became, in independence in 1993. So Somaliland is like, they have, as I say, a functional and working government. They fulfill everything, but they haven't get a recognition until now because of the world. Right now, two things is coming for Somaliland. One is Ethiopia. They always say one country has to recognize you from Africa. Second, because of this Red Sea, tension now, that's what's going on. Right now, even the British, the French, they're all, yesterday, one of the, Somaliland foreign minister, Dr. Issa, has delivered a speech in the parliament of France for the first time. Right now, he's in Washington, D.C. They are invited. The undersecretary, Molly, the lady, invite him. Before she was saying one Somalia, So everything is changing now. So to make the long story short, Somaliland will gain a lot. Although right now, Ethiopia has an embassy there in Somaliland. And there are 12 countries that have embassies there, by the way, right now in Somaliland. These people are not new for these things. We just need a good leadership, like right now, what's going on in Ethiopia. And without hostility, there will be some integration, economical integration. And we will talk that other component that the world is changing right now.
Do you think Ethiopia's port deal with Somaliland impacts other countries in the region?
It will impact in a positive way because it will have what they call it effect of multiplier in terms of economic, concepts. It will change a lot. It will bring peace. It will have not only a diplomatic and also strategic. Ethiopia has announced two things that come, in January 1st, 2024. One, they signed this deal with Somaliland. But another also major thing that the world doesn't want to talk about it, or in the social media, is the deal with the BRICS. That is another major one, And the world, before the Western, you see, After the World War II, 1945, the world is come up what we call it, a breath, which they come up in institution way that they created, like a five country that has a power veto, all that, because as a result of the Cold War, Cold War. Ethiopia also became another, powerhouse like, China, like those countries. So we are heading to that way, and the world is changing. And this will bring not only, in terms of the geopolitics, as I say earlier, strategic diplomacy, security, economic empowerment in the region, or not only, but overall. Because right now, China, Russia, the funny part, look at it. You see how the politics play game. When the Russia and China, ships go through the sea here, the Houthis, they are not touching. They are not firing. But whenever they see it from the Western, they are creating a lot of problems. So a country like Ethiopia that has, a good relation, not with the US, and also it has with the China, can play a major role, to make at ease, the flow of the goods. You see, there are at least 40% of all goods go through that place. And as the Ethiopia, not only if we look Ethiopia at the length of economic empowerment that she will gain from that place, 80%, 80% of the world trade has to go through the sea, not airline. Ethiopia, I say, is one of the major carrier, well known. Ethiopia cannot afford just to be landlocked, to stay there. That's why they need it. And also this country, all these countries that are on the periphery, like Eritrea, in Djibouti, in also Somaliland, even Somalia, the Free State of Somalia, they are all interconnected. If you look at it, the Oromos, they live in Ethiopia. They live also in Kenya. The Somali live in Ethiopia. They live in Somaliland and Somalia. They live also in Djibouti, in the Sudanese, So we need a peace, and we need economic empowerment in order to change the life of the people. So we need, a human capital. A human capital means we don't need a young generation like you who goes through the sea, who die, and who go to Europe. Why the people go to Europe? Why? When only 15%, you see, take this, take Ethiopia, is the most agricultural rich place that can feed whole Africa if they cultivate it properly. Only right now, between 15 to 20% of the fertile land of Ethiopia is cultivated. Imagine. And we are waiting, all the Horn of Africa, some grain, because there was a war in, Ukraine, and the sea are not. So all these are interrelated.
Sharing resources among neighboring countries is a global experience, including seaports. Why are such initiatives discouraged or even denounced when it comes to Africa and other developing countries?
What we need is how we have a good governance, a good leadership, a visionary leadership who can tackle, the issue that they are facing, the country is facing. That's the first thing, Second, we need a peace, we need, the country has to have a peace. Otherwise, as you can see right now, the government is doing, they say, okay, we protect ourselves, though they invest all the money in the war, and it's not working. Let's come back to Somaliland. Okay, Somaliland, when they gained their independence from British, unlike the South, there was they inherit, all the other African inherit what we call it the nation state. Even in call it, I don't know, probably in Amharic, Hagara Mangist, they inherit that. But they inherited with the reality that is different from the people there. Like in Oromo region, there is what we call it the GADA system. GADA, it's the homegrown institution. In Somaliland, there is what we call it hair. And they have a parliament there. They have a parliament that elderly, and they have a mechanism. Right now, if there is a problem in Somaliland, You know who's saving them all the time? Why we don't see Al-Shabaab that is because of the elder. Because the traditional system, they sit under the tree and they have a dishonor conflict management and they solve it. So what I'm trying to tell you, the reason we have all these conflicts is two things. First is a lack of leadership. And second, we don't know how to manage in our conflict. And we're trying to manage with the tool we get it from outside. So like, look Somalia, for example, until today, it's a failed state. Until 1991, when the Somalia state collapsed, they couldn't restore the state. That state they inherited from Italy. And you know, the Americans, all those countries, they put their billion and billion dollars. But until now, even look at it. The Atkinson, in the peacekeeping force. Do you know how much they pay for a year? $1 billion. And people are displaced within there. You see, the government now, right now in Somalia, cannot control even the city of Mogadishu, let alone. And see, last time they were saying there was a sovereignty, or they signed this. How on earth are they talking about? As Jula say, 60% of Ethiopian are protecting the villa. You see, the funny part is even the Somalia government, the president, the salary, who's paying? The European are paying right now. That's a shame for Africa. The European are paying the salary of Somalia government. I mean, how on earth you call yourself a government when your salary is paid by the external factor? So they can dictate you, they can do whatever they want. They can play you like a toy. But if you sit down, like what the Ethiopia right now is doing, and engage in economic, then you can have a good governance. So the problem is how we manage our resource.
Excellent. As you know, accelerating African integration is high on the agenda of AU since recently. How helpful will such cooperation and partnership between neighboring countries and among regional bodies to succeed this continental agenda?
So Africa right now, they are getting up from this, from this sleeping whatever mode, and now they are trying to explore, and also the good things now. The BRICS, have bring some change right now, and we need this AU. See, AU, African Union. The Chinese build 200 million building in Addis that they are using right now. So always these other countries are dictating Africa. The Africans, they have to get up from that. See, last time on 18 of February, there was a meeting, the AU meeting in Addis. At the time, one of the key components, although they talk about, the theme of they talking about, the topic was education. Yes, we need education. But the problem right now, the biggest problem that all the scholars, all the academicians, all the analysis are shedding light on it is one thing: how the African leaders and the sovereignty, the question of AU to be independent institution could be run. Because right now, the power of all those leaders are overshadowing, the institution, and legally are not, functioning properly. So the institution has to be changed and has to be legally independent from the invisible hand of all those leaders. And then we can do integration, like East Africa integration that has been done. But it's not only by names. It has to be involve all the countries. Look Somaliland right now. They were working hard. They created a university. They held, even elections, free and fair election. They use one of the best electronic parametric. They use it up. But in Somalia, they say government, it's elected by raising hand. 275 members. Where on earth you compare those two? And the European will tell you, oh, this is a sovereignty country and territorial. You see, the curse of Africa is what we inherit, the borders that we inherit from the colonial legacy. But as I say earlier, the Oromos live in Kenya and also in Ethiopia. the Somali live in Ethiopia and also in Somaliland, in Somalia, in Djibouti. All this, the Gambella lives in Kenya, I mean, in Sudan, and they live there. What we need is a leader that will integrate that and put in question, the OAU has to address the changing dynamic of the new generation, because Africa has a big future in the long run. 70% of African population are under 30 years old. So in the European, if you look at it, you see, it's like the other way around. The older people are, demography is different. But here, this human capital doesn't have to die in the seas, We need to sit down, dialogue. Children has to go to school. We have to build roads. We have to have a good electricity. We have to good waters. We have to integration. Because the question of, Africa, they'll tell you, is a tribalist. No, they are not. The question is, economically, if the people feel like they are independent and they work and they are given a job, then the tribe, all this, right now we're talking about, ethnic politics and all that, will be finished, will be over.
Well, the Horn of Africa is becoming a hot spot for various terror groups, including Al-Shabaab. Latest information shows the group is, as you have mentioned earlier, capturing some places following the departure of Djibouti security forces. The group is frequently threatening other countries in the region, including Ethiopia and Kenya. What should these countries do to stop such group?
Right now, you see, Al-Shabaab and those groups are the one who's collecting tax in Somalia. What is the origin of this? Where they come from? What created them? We have to ask. There's a lot of hidden agenda there. We know these things. They cannot have that much power by just within Somalis. They must be outside external factor that is triggering all this tension and conflict and then problems. So what we need is, as Ethiopian leadership right now trying to do, they say, we are trying to help you there. Why are you always running to Egypt? Look, Egypt, for example, right now. Egypt is Sisi. He could not even support his own Palestinian brother. He blocked the place. On the contrary, look, South Africa. South Africa, they brought Israelis to the court in the ICJ. So that's contradiction, that shows that then he will say, last time when this MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding deal was done, Sisi was saying with Hassan Sheikh, I am protecting Somalis. Why he doesn't protect his own brothers over there? They are close to him. It's less than a few kilometers and people are not having food. So all this, my friend, is a double standard, is hypocrisy. But to sum up is, we need a sound, leadership that when you analyze things, you have to be objective from the reality. And whether we like it or not, Ethiopia is a powerhouse.
Well, how should regional blocs such as IGAD and the continental body AU itself support Africans to stand in unison and defend their collective security?
But just to come back to the Horn of Africa, our area, I mean, Sudan is part of it, but if we come back to it, I'm insisting and I'm underlying, we need a visionary leader who like other countries in Africa, care about their own. And Ethiopia has to be in the leading, position there. Ethiopia is a rich country. But in order to get that, as I said earlier, we need an infrastructure. And Ethiopia is heading in that direction now. Ethiopia, all the economic, indicators are signaling that Ethiopia is in the right direction. Because one, they're creating this big carrier. They will become the African carrier, for example, in the long run, the airlines. Then there will be this other in damn things that the electricity will change. Then is another also right now in the Addis Ababa area, you can see there is a 4,000, best, residential that they are building that in modernized area. We need those kind of things in order to ameliorate, in order to change, in order to better the population's lifestyle.
Well, Doctor, finally, if you have any message to add, you're welcome.
Ethiopia, which is a powerhouse with her population with 120 million, has to take the leadership and has also historically access to Red Sea, so that not only, as I say, economic, diplomatic, strategic, and also, for all that has to secure. And I'm hoping that Somaliland and Ethiopia will sign these things, and it will benefit all Horn of Africa. And I'm hoping also Somalia will come out from this failed state, and we will fight with these extremists like Al-Shabaab, like those who are just prone to destruction. We don't want to see that. That every Somali saying goes, a child or a person will die in a war, but it will never born, there. So we have to change that mindset. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to express my opinion.
Dr. Ismail Mohmud, a scholar of political science, thank you for your time and a deep insight on our program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dear viewers, that's all what we have for now. Till the next time, have a good time.